Good morning, America. Today is Monday, February the 25th, and we are going to read 2 Samuel chapter 6 today. It is not a very long chapter at all. It only has 23 verses in it. And we are going to be talking about those things that are holy. Remember a couple days ago I tossed that word at you. Holy is something that is worthy of absolute devotion. It is also something that is sanctified, hallowed, consecrated, and blessed. And we did talk about certain things that we may have in our home that is holy. The one thing you will have in your home that is holy is your Bible. Your Bible is a very holy book. It is to be treated as such. You are to keep it up out of the way of the children so that they do not tear the pages out of it. Those pages hold the holy words given unto us long ago by the hand of Moses and all those other writers that contributed to the making of the Bible, called the King James Version. And today's reading is going to be pertaining to another holy item, and we will find out what that is. It will be coming from 2 Samuel chapter 2. Uzzah is one of the characters in this story, and he does something by accident. He does it by accident in order to avoid damaging a particular holy item, and unaware to him that he was not supposed to touch the item. It would have been better to let the holy item fall on the ground and break than it was to touch the item, because only certain people were allowed to touch that item. So it's kind of a sad story, because a good man met his death by touching that which was very, very holy. Okay, and we also talked about things on your body that was holy. I discussed that yesterday. So all of these things are hallowed. They are sanctified. They are sacred and must be treated as such. This particular chapter has an array of colors in it. We have history, which is silver. We have red for discipleship, about 3 verses. We also have black for sin. We have blue for salvation. We have 1 verse of olive for commandment. And actually we have 2 verses of olive for commandment and 2 verses of green for love. And several verses of pink for witnessing. And 1 verse, the last verse, verse 23, is yellow for family. So let's begin. Uzzah is smitten, which means killed, for touching the ark as it is being brought to Jerusalem. Micah is made barren. Micah was supposed to be David's first wife, so she was made barren. When you are barren, that means you cannot bear children. And God can close your wounds up, or he can open up your wounds. It is his call. How many children you have, whether they are healthy or not, all of that is his call. So the first 4 verses of this particular 23 verse chapter is silver for history. It says, Again David gathered together all the chosen men of Israel, 30,000 of them. Verse 2, And David arose and went with all the people that were with him from Belial of Judah to bring up from Tinch the ark of God. That was a very, very holy piece of furniture that belonged to God. Okay, whose name is called by the name of the Lord of hosts that dwelleth between the cherubims. 3 and 4 still silver. And they set the ark of God upon a new cart and brought it out of the house of Abinadab that was in Gibeon, And Uzzah and Ohiah, the son of Abandonah, drove the new cart. So they were the ones in charge of moving the cart. 4. And they brought it out of the house of Abandonah, which was at Gibeon, accompanied the ark of God, and Ohiah went before the ark. So he walked in front of the ark. 5, which is read for discipleship. And David and all the house of Israel played before the Lord on all manner of instrument made of fern wood, even on harps and on psalteries and on timbrel and on cornets and cymbrum. So as they were moving the ark, the musicians were playing all of these instruments. It's funny how back in the biblical time, we paid attention to those things that were holy, whereas now very few things are sacred unto the nations. Very sad. 6, 7 is where we're going to find out what happens to this ark, and it is in black for sin. And when they came to Nachan, threshing floor, Uzzah put forth his hand to the ark of God. So the ark was apparently sliding, falling in some way, and he put forth his hand to catch the ark. Uzzah put forth his hand to the ark of God and took hold of it, for the oxen shook it. Okay, 7. And the anger of the Lord was kindled against Uzzah, and God smote him there for his error, and there he died by the ark of God. So this particular hallowed, consecrated, sanctified piece of furniture belonged to God. It was called the Ark of the Covenant. Not everybody could handle this ark, and Uzzah apparently wasn't aware of this, and in his haste to try to keep the ark from falling, he touched it. Okay, and that kindled God's anger against him, and he killed him right away. 8. And David was displeased because this is a history. Verse 8 is silver for history. And David was displeased because the Lord had made a breach upon Uzzah, and he called the name of the place Uzzah to this day. That's what it's called. 9 to 12 is blue for salvation. And David was afraid of the Lord, which is something we should be anyhow, that day, and said, how shall the ark of the Lord come to me? So he became even more afraid of God when he had done this thing. And he's saying to himself, how is it that it should come to me? So he became afraid, even more afraid of God. And David was afraid of the Lord that day and said, how shall the ark of the Lord come to me? 10. So David would not remove the ark of the Lord unto him into the city of David, but David carried it aside into the house of Obed-Edom the Gittite. So he didn't take the ark home with him. He sent it somewhere else. 11. And the ark of the Lord continued in the house of Obed-Edom the Gittite 3 months, and the Lord blessed Obed-Edom and his household. So while it was in his house, this man received many, many, many blessings while the ark was in his home. 12, still blue. And it was told King David, saying, the Lord has blessed the house of Obed-Edom and all that pertaineth unto him because of the ark of God. And this is a split verse. It has green in it, which is for love. So David went and brought up the ark of God from the house of Obed-Edom into the city of David with gladness. Okay, so when he found out that where he had sent the ark, the individual was being blessed, it gave him courage to go and pick up the ark and bring it to his house. And this is olive for commandment, verse 13. And it was so that when they that bare the ark of the Lord had gone 6 paces, he sacrificed oxen and fatlings. Okay, so he's very cautious as he was handling or going towards this very precious and holy instrument of God. 14 and 15 is read for discipleship. And David danced before the Lord with all his might, and David was girded with a linen apron. 15. So David and all the house of Israel brought up the ark of the Lord with shouting and with the sounds of the trumpet. So this was a big feast, bringing this ark back to the city of David. Carefully, mind you. 16 is black for sin. And as the ark of the Lord came into the city of David, Michal, Saul's daughter, looked through a window and saw King David leaping and dancing before the Lord, and she despised him in her heart. She saw her father dancing mightily in front of this ark, and it displeased his daughter. I cannot understand why. 17 and 18 is olive again for commandment. And they brought in the ark of the Lord and set it in his place, and in the midst of the tabernacle that David had pitched for it. And David offered burnt offerings and peace offerings before the Lord. 18 is blue for salvation. And as soon as David had made an end of offering burnt offerings and peace offerings, he blessed the people in the name of the Lord of hosts. 19 is that other green love verse that we have. And he dwelt among all the people, even among the whole multitude of Israel, as well to the women as men, to everyone a cake of bread and a good piece of flesh and a flagon of wine. So all the people departed, everyone to their house. So this was a very merry, happy occasion to bring this holy device into his house, to celebrate it, to offer offerings to it, to make sure that all the people had merry hearts when they returned home. 20 is black for sin. Then David returned to bless his household, and Michal, the daughter of Saul, came out to meet David. So this was the one that loved David. This was Saul's daughter. And Michal, the daughter of Saul, came out to meet David and said, "How glorious was the king of Israel today, who uncovered himself today in the eyes of the handsmaid of his servant, as one of the vain fellows shamelessly uncovered himself!" Exclamation mark. So she was not saying this peaceably. She was screaming it at him, that he was undressed, that he was dancing, and that he was shamefully acting like the fellows. Okay, I will read that again. But David returned to bless his household, and Michal, the daughter of Saul, came out to meet him and said, "How glorious was the king of Israel today, who uncovered himself to dance in the eyes of the handsmaid of his servant, as one of the vain fellows shamefully uncovered himself!" Exclamation mark. 21 and 22 is pink for witnessing. And David said unto Michal, "It was before the Lord." He's defending himself. He said, "It was before the Lord who chose me before thy father and before all his house to appoint me ruler of the people of the Lord over Israel. Therefore will I play before the Lord," because he was also playing the instrument. 22 still paying, "And I will yet be more vile than thus, and will be based in my own sight, and of the maidservants which thou hast spoken of them shall I be had in honor." So even though she was displeased by it, those that danced with the king were honored by it. 23 is yellow for family. Therefore Michal, the daughter of Saul, had no child unto the day of her death. So the Lord punished her for that. He punished her for reprimanding the king for dancing for the Lord and for celebrating the coming of the ark into his city. She was punished for that. So the story here tells you about the precious things that are holy unto God. It also addresses how you reprimand a king. If the king is doing something wrong, then yes, he may be reprimanded, but not by his wife. He may be reprimanded by another servant of the Lord. So she said something to the king that was inappropriate. For the king had done no wrong indeed. That which the king had done was good in the sight of God. Okay, it is good to dance before the Lord. It is good to play trumpets before the Lord. It is good to use your voice and sing before the Lord. He had done nothing wrong at all in the sight of God. And no one who was not supposed to touch that ark. Only those that were anointed to touch the ark can touch the ark. So as today, the people seem not to have any idea of what is sacred and what is not. If something is very sacred, it is not to be touched by all the saints. It is only to be touched by the servants, even today. Okay, so try to remember that certain things in this world are holy unto God, and we ought to respect it in the biblical time, and we ought to respect it in our time. Okay, thank you very much for joining me here at Spiritual Water. I certainly hope you learned something from the reading today. And as always, may the peace of God be upon thee. May the protection of God surround you. And may the will of God for your life come from thee. Until the next time, enjoy your day.